Today we're at Donington Park to test out our recently modified GT4. In our last video we installed monoballs to the car, so today we're here back at track to test exactly what a difference they have made. We're going to be using one of our pro drivers to push the car to its limit, see exactly what the car is now capable of. Before we get started, let's just go over what monoballs are and why they should be a good upgrade for our GT4. So as standard in the suspension arms, they have rubber bushes. At the front there is 2 rubber bushes per arm, and at the back there is 1 inner rubber bush as well. And as we're going around circuit, these bushes effectively flex and move around and cause geometry changes to occur at the wheel. This means that what we set in the workshop, geometry wise, is actively changing as we're going through corners, and the faster we go and the more load we put through the tyre, the bigger that change is. So we're ending up with an unstable chassis that feels less stable at speed, which is the exact opposite of what you want. The monoballs are effectively a solid spherical bearing that are into a machined housing that replaces the rubber bush in the arm, effectively making that entire arm completely solid. It's still able to operate and orientate as a stock arm would, but there's no flex or movement when that arm gets physically pushed on out on circuit. The GT4RS has these as standard, as does a GT3RS as well. So we know it's a great upgrade for the chassis, but how much of a difference they're going to make is going to be key today to really feel that as well. So with the monoballs installed, not only are we expecting to see a bit more stability, but we're hoping to get rid of that geometry change and that movement as the actual suspension system is being compressed through the corner. It's also even more important for our car because we've increased grip levels so many times. We've installed the camber plates to get more camber front and rear. We've installed the stiffer springs to carry more load through that camber and get more mass transferred across the axle, and we've also gone for wider tyres now. So we've got a 265 front and a 325 rear. So we've massively increased that contact patch, which has increased grip levels so much that we're putting even more force and even more G-force physically through the chassis, which is going to flex that rubber even harder and more aggressively. So when we fitted these tyres, we actually felt that instability even more than we did before. So now with it monoballed, really excited to get out on track and see exactly what difference that has made. So I'm going to head out on track now as a more novice driver before we get the pro driver in. And the reason for this is because some upgrades actually have a bigger effect on a novice than they do a pro. Because from my perspective, it's all about building the confidence so I can push that little bit harder and get even more grip out the chassis and just get that confidence built into the car to push harder and go faster when I'm out on track. So when we did the tyre change, for example, we moved to the 265, 325, I was blown away by the difference and the grip level difference. So I was pushing so much harder than before that my lap time came down by multiple seconds. Whereas a pro driver is a pro and they can push a lot of setups very fast, so they have a much more incremental gain every time they drive an upgrade. So before Leighton jumps in this car today, I'm going to head out first and just get my impressions whilst we're out on track, and then we're going to go straight to Leighton's lap as he's going to take it out on a more professional basis and see what the car is really capable of. Then we'll have a quick chat afterwards. So you join me driving the car here. This is about lap 6 or 7 of this session. It says 17 on the V-Box, but that's just added up across the entire day. So today was extremely cold and it took a really long time to get any temperature into the tyres whatsoever. It was about 6 or 7 degrees C this day. Really crisp, cold day. So it took a long time to get any usable heat into the compound. We did increase tyre pressure a little bit to compensate, but you do have to be careful there not to lose contact patch with pressure. So it's always a fine balance of tuning pressures to get the heat into the tyre as well. Luckily today wasn't about outright grip though through the corners, so today was more about how the monoballs felt to drive, and that's why I was in the car, just to see what I sort of thought and felt of how the car drove. So immediately through the corners, I mean, you can see from the steering wheel, it's just so poised, and it's been poised for a while with the circuit handling pack fitted, but there's just even less movement. Every time we make an improvement, it's always a refinement and a step closer to having an even better chassis underneath me. So it was really nice to fit these because it wasn't a massive difference like fitting the 325, 265 tyres onto the car. That was a huge jump in grip levels. The monoballs are a much more subtle change. So these are just a more refined change. That's just nice as a driver to feel that very subtle difference sometimes. So here, really heavy braking zone. You can see the steering wheel, one hand there as I do this shift down. It stays arrow straight under extremely heavy braking. ABS is grabbing at that point, but despite that, the car doesn't wiggle and move around like it used to. We're in a really heavy braking point again here, and I'd say, see there, the steering wheel absolutely straight and perfect. So beforehand, the steering wheel used to really have a bit of a shimmy in it. The whole car would sort of wiggle around under really heavy braking, and that was just that movement in the front pucks and in those inner monoballs as well, just letting those control arms just flex and move around a little bit. Now that the monoballed and they're physically locked in place with spherical bearings and with those aluminium pucks that we've put into the front control arms, there just is no room for movement now under heavy braking zones. So now as we really get on the brake pedal, we're putting as much through that tyre as possible. The steering is just staying really nice and stable, as you can see there. So the braking zones for me were the real standout, and that was just really nice to see the car sort of behave in that zone, which before was always a lot of movement, and as a driver you had to be ready for that under really heavy braking zones, whereas now that's just completely removed, which is really nice. So now we join Leighton out for a fast lap again. He was on laps 4 or 5 in this, and again you can see his tyres still weren't up to temperature. This was just after lunch, so in the afternoon it was dropping off and it was getting cooler and cooler, so the tyres really struggled to get heat into the compound. So we didn't want to do any crazy changes, like really massive aggressive toe changes, because that would change the behaviour of the car as well, just to get the heat in the tyres. It's always a fine trade-off. So as the temperature today was a bit of a one-off, we left the actual geo settings alone for this, tweaked pressure a little bit, but yeah, other than that, the tyres did struggle a lot with temperatures, which is why they're quite blue there. It was taking about 6, 7, 8 laps to actually get usable heat into the tyre. Leighton also had quite a lot of traffic, but again, you can see in the braking zones, very stable and very planted. And again, a lot of Leighton's laps after lunch had a lot of traffic in them, so we didn't have a really clear lap to show you like we could with me, but he had a decent run on this lap, and again you can see here into the really heavy braking zone. Again, he's got a little bit of wiggle as he comes in there, and then in. He's going a lot faster than me as well on colder tyres, so he does have a little bit more movement there in the steering wheel than I did when I had that heat generated in the compound, but again, so much more stable than previous onboards in the braking zones. So really interested to see what he thinks when he gets out the car. From a driver's perspective, he has driven this car an awful lot, and he is a professional racing driver, so he has driven this car in every single step of the way. He's driven it when it was a standard road car, and then he's driven it when it just had camber plates and tow arms fitted. Then he's driven it with the full kinematics kit, then with the tyre changes. So we're always making these incremental gains. So it's interesting to see what he thinks, because I definitely noticed a subtle difference. So I am interested to see if he thought the difference was larger or smaller contribution than I thought. So you've just come back in from driving the car, and it's your first time with the monoballs, and just last week we were here with the tyres done. So could you feel the monoballs? Did it make a difference, or small difference, big difference?
Yeah, I mean, obviously coming from such a huge change with the new tyre format, you know, that was obviously a mammoth leap on from where it was before.
Massive,
and at this point, it's just chipping away those kind of incremental gains.
Yeah.
So 100%, yes, you can feel the monoball suspension change. The car's got a little bit less pitch, a little bit less roll. The places I really noticed it was where you're looking for that directional change.
Yeah.
So coming down through the craners, through Hollywood into the craners there, at that direction change, you really feel it. And then obviously when you're braking for the S's, the front feels so planted.
Yeah.
And then when you roll it into the S's through the left and then the right, that roll is just not there anymore. It's just smoothed that right out. The front feels amazing. Yeah. And bit by bit, it's starting to really remind me of my 991.2 RS.
Yeah, nice.
It really feels a lot like that. Yeah, it really feels a lot like that now. Yeah. So no, definitely a worthwhile change for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I felt it most, I think, under heavy braking for me.
Yeah.
You're carrying a lot more speed through these corners than I am, but like the end of the straight here into turn 1 and the end of the straight into the S's, it's just so much more straight and stable now, and I'm later and later on the brakes because I've got more confidence in it.
Yeah.
So it just
I would agree.
I think now.
No, it's you know, they said these incremental changes, they are just chipping away at the lap time, chipping away at the feel of the car, which is obviously then going to give you a platform to then take it to the next level and start adding the other things that you're talking about adding.
There's a lot more to come.
Yeah, but I think as a foundation now, the car is it's amazing, and it's almost hard to believe that what you've done has worked so well. Yeah. No, it's amazing, man.
Awesome. Well, luckily we just beat this rain to the punch, so thank you very much again for driving it, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Thanks.
The rain has officially come in, so it's time to draw an end to our testing today. It's getting late in the afternoon anyway, so quite a nice time to close the day up. The monoballs definitely made a really big difference under heavy braking for me at the end of the long straights. Rather than the car squirming around like it usually does, it stayed a lot more true and planted, which we can hopefully see on the onboard that we filmed today, with the wheel just staying really nice and stable as we're in the braking zone. And it aided me for just better turning, more confidence on the brakes. I was braking later, going into the corners faster because of that, and then the tyres that we've now fitted were carrying that speed through the corner. So the whole package we build now is just a faster and a faster and a faster car. So it really is, as always, a pleasure to drive. But that limit of grip is just lifting up every time we fit a mod to this thing now. So it's really exciting to drive now. Having Leighton in the car as well for his feedback, That verifies some things that I thought I felt as well. Like through Craners, it definitely was a bit less wishy-washy, and usually when you're going down the hill, you apex in over 100 miles an hour, and you usually feel the car just have a little bit of a wiggle as it settles. Whereas now with the monoballs fitted, it definitely doesn't. You just feel it literally turn, sit onto the tyre, and get into the corner. So again, much more confidence inspiring to carry that sort of speed through those sorts of corners. Next stages for the car now, we have a few different paths we can go to. We're really happy with the bolt-on suspension mods that we've made so far. So the next couple of stages, I'll get over to you guys to a degree. So we want to ask you in the comments if you can just put us some things into the comments, what you would like to see us do next with this. We have a few different plans. We're certainly not done by any means. We have a lot of plans for the car. But what would you like to see as the next stages for the build? So pop it into the comments, let us know, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.